I'm Samantha Brown, professional organizer, decluttering specialist, and business coach. I created Pro Organizers Coach podcast to empower you to reach new heights in your business. I am on a mission to build a supportive sisterhood of passionate professional organizers. So whether you're a seasoned pro or you're just getting started, this podcast is for you. Hey friends, welcome back to the Pro Organizers Coach podcast. Today I have Miss Annie with me, and I'm so excited for today's episode. We are going to talk about something that you've probably never heard about, but it is going to help you in your business and it's going to help you with your clients. So thank you, Miss Annie, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you, Samantha. I'm so glad to be here. Very excited to talk about what we're about to talk about.
Yeah. So tell everyone real quick a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll get into the good stuff.
For sure. So my name's Anny Liao, and I own a coaching company. What I mainly tell people what I do is, even though I work with executives, managers, career professionals, and business owners, what I'm really doing is I'm your energy coach. So I coach the energy behind everything that is there in what you choose to do, what you choose not to do, what you choose to ignore. All of those things for me has the fundamentals going back to how you manage, how you see your energy. And so that is the heart of what I do, is really teaching and coaching about energy.
I love it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a good point to make, is that everything that we think, everything we do, all of it has energy behind it. And I don't think a lot of us even give that a second thought. And so I love that you've created this entire business around helping people understand their energies and how to work with those energies and just all the things that you do. So tell us a little bit about maybe like either what you typically tell clients or like how you explain the energy behind things,
For
like the
sure.
basics.
Yeah. And so most of the time when I speak to a client, first we just have a conversation, right? They come to me because they're in some sort of distress most of the time. There's a problem in their life and we just have a quick conversation about it. And one of the things is that part of what I do in the corporate world, they coined it as emotional intelligence, picking up what people are feeling and being really clear about not passing judgment, because there's an energy behind the judgment. Even if we were talking on Zoom, even if we were just on a phone call and not seeing each other, the other person will feel it. So it's super important for me to manage that judgment piece, especially when we're talking to clients, because the base of what we do is service, right? We're there to help someone. Someone's brave enough to reach out to you for help. And so the one thing that you don't really want to do is pass judgment onto the stress that they have. And so as we have a conversation, we talk about they talk about the issues that they're having. And in some ways, I'm a problem solver. I have 30 years of engineering background. And so I'm very practical in that sense. And then I will sort of approach the subject. Like, so I hear what you're talking about. I'll refresh kind of the entire story that they presented to me and ask them about if they wanted to know how I work, how I will work with. Then we go into kind of the framework of what I do, which is energy. The thing here is, I think we're at a particular stage in society that I think some people still hear the word energy as a bit woo-woo, for sure. But I have a science and engineering background. I will flip out quantum physics on you if you want more explanation on that. But the reality of it is we have a lot of natural daily explanation of things that you've already seen that happens to you every single day, that is energy and is how energy is working in your life. And I will pull some of those things to get them to go, oh, it actually does already exist for me. And so maybe this is not a woo-woo topic. Maybe it's a little more realistic, something that I can put my hand around, and then we can grapple with, is this something that I could actually use and control to help me out of whatever it is that that's happening to me or with me? And then ultimately, can it really help me? right? Out of
Yeah.
this trouble that I'm in.
Yeah, and I think a lot of my listeners in particular, we all know, like, and if they've listened to me for any length of time, I talk about this all the time of pretty much everything you just said in the sense that however you're feeling, like when you show up at a client's door, like in my mind, I leave my stuff at the door because
Hmm.
I am there to serve them.
Right.
If I walk in thinking like, "Oh, I'm supposed to be picking up my son today at 3," or like I've got all these other things going through my mind, they're gonna pick up on the fact that I am not paying attention to them, and they may misinterpret that energy as judgment or as something that it actually isn't. There's so many different ways with what we do with our clients and in our business on the back end of things with judgment of ourselves as well.
Sure.
But there's so many things that we do that that energy flow and the emotional intelligence are so, so, so important in, like you said, every single day life.
Correct. And what makes you successful, especially within your line of business, because you're most of the time you're front facing, right? You're
Mhm.
interacting in the physical space. And in the physical space, you got your verbal, your audible, and the energy fields right there in front of you. You are there mixing with. And so coming in clean is super important, as you said, like leave it at the door, right? You can.
Mhm.
And I always tell people, some of my clients like worry about, well, what if I put it down and I forget? I'm like, trust me, it'll be there waiting for you, right? So so one of the things is like we don't have to have the fear of like the thing that we're worried about was gonna run away on its own. Frankly, if it does, it probably was not supposed to be yours anyway, right?
Right.
And so having a very clear space coming in to your client is a great thing. But one of the thing about the framework that I teach in terms of energy, because a lot of people like talk about, well, it's the energy behind this thing that you're talking about. Then, for a lot of people, like, okay, I get you're saying energy, but like, what does it look like? Do I hear it? Is it some sort of feeling? Am I supposed to feel a particular way? Is it feeling in your body? There are all sorts of ways that people experience energy, and it's
Mhm.
very individualistic. So what I start with is there's a framework. The framework starts out the same for everybody. But what happens is just like, you know, organizers come in. I love that you said it's like it's customized, right, to
Mhm.
your client because what they need, how they think. I have a basic framework that I explain what energy is. And as clients understand it more and more, they start to infuse and integrate that into their own life. And they recognize, right, this level of energy shows up in my life looking like this. And when it
Mhm.
shows up, I feel like this. Then the next thing is once you know the framework, you kind of have awareness. Once you have awareness, you could go, what do I do on practice? Integrate that. Once you integrate it, then you got choices.
Mhm.
Because the idea is there really isn't good and bad, right? I'm sure you've also talked about this
Mhm.
because one organizational method for one client versus another is just what works for them. So in the whole archetype of coaching, there really isn't a good and a right?
Right. No
And
judgment.
so it's very neutral. And so
Yeah.
you want to come in with that concept of energy, even though there's different categories of it, there's different levels of it. They're just all there for you to understand it. They're there for you to integrate with it. And then there to help you. You choose to use them for the advantages they
Mhm.
are, and then let them go for the disadvantages. Because everything is a yin and yang, right? You got the two sides of the different coin. So everything has a positive and everything has a negative. So you would just be on the lookout for what that level of energy would be, choose to respond in that
Mhm.
particular way at that particular time. And, the interesting part has become master over that kind of energy categorization. You can very fluidly flow through them, right? Because we're not just like all this one thing, little tiny box. Sometimes that would definitely make life easier, for sure.
Uh-huh.
But we flow. We flow. We're a blend of everything. That's what makes everybody unique. It is what makes your client unique. And so my assertion is that when you are able to master that framework, and then integrate that, you now have command over yourself so that when you start to vibe by a high energy, your client's going to come to you. It's an attraction. When you're in the space of your client, you're helping them do their stuff, they feel less judged. They
Mm.
feel more energetic to do what it is. In a lot of ways, you may even, and I've seen this not necessarily in organization, but in my client is as they come and sort of entrain themselves to my level of energy, they start to get clarity because they
Mhm.
pull themselves out of the mud and now they're kind of seeing above the clouds. They go, oh, I mean, I don't know why I didn't see it before, but I guess I could choose this and not that, and they feel good about it, right? And that's the hallmark of any kind of coach, any kind of person that's helping someone that's in a level of distress, to get them out of that distress so that they can make a choice that feel better,
Mhm.
as time move forward.
Yeah, and it absolutely happens all the time. More for the types of clients I work with because I work with my clients, not necessarily for them. Now, it's a little bit
Hmm.
harder when the client's not there and you're doing stuff for, obviously, but especially the ones of us that work with our clients and we're, going through things with them. Everything you just said of like, "Oh, I never noticed that before. Oh, as you were saying this," like they start to have those epiphanies just by being around us, just
Hmm.
by, working through things together. And again, like you said, there's no judgment, there's no any, it's just literally, I've gotten to where, like for me in particular, I talk through what I'm doing, or, I may ask them a question and then all of a sudden they'll be like, "Oh, I never thought about that. That's genius," or, those types of
Right.
things. And in my opinion, that's what an organizer should be, is someone that is going in and, like you said, helping our clients, if they so choose, to come up to our level in the sense of helping them to get out of the muck for sure.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so to me, like that's, a lot of people talk about why do you get into certain business? For
Mhm.
me, it's part of my why, right? I want to help people have that capability to first train with someone. I'm a guide for someone to actually practice these things. And then the other part of it is as they continue to evolve, like things get bigger, things become more expansive for them. And
Mhm.
you never know, right? You never know. Once you can let go of something that's weighing you down, you don't know what the future looks like. It gets brighter, it gets more expansive. So for someone, it could very well be like if they just got a little bit more organization inside of their home, they could get the promotion that they've been working for. Like the effect is really, you can't, it's not like a railway track. It doesn't just go one way. It expands the universe for you
Mhm.
in that way. And so different things that we do to help people release that, what I call a catabolic energy, is heavier the muck, right?
Yep.
And then why not? Why wouldn't we
Yeah.
do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you keep talking about this framework. Do you have
Mhm.
just like a little bit of kind of to help us understand a little bit of just like what it kind of is?
Right. So first of all, like, when I'm talking about energy, I want a little buy-in, like want you to think that energy is real. I can
Mhm.
do a little demonstration to help people feel energy. It comes from a tradition of Eastern, like Reiki, and so I would do a demo and that. So most of the time, like 99% everybody like, whoa, I didn't know that I had this in me, right? So it's
Right.
just a demonstration that energy exists. And then when I start explaining energy, I try not to get too technical, and I know I can. I nerd out on people sometimes, but there are two major categories of energy. I call it catabolic and anabolic. And you can think of it as positive or negative. I tend to want to not use those words because both of them have their uses. So one is heavier, the other one is lighter. And you can imagine which one is more expansive, right? Which one you want to be able to have more of. And then out of those two category energy, there's 7 levels of energy that anyone can possess as they build up. And so the framework is to really have a clear explanation of what those two categories of energy is and what the 7 levels of energy looks like in reference to those two categories. Now, once you kind of have a bit of education, we match that. Like, what does level 1 energy look like? There's certain words that we use to
Mhm.
associate with that. But what's interesting is when, especially if even if I'm talking one-on-one or inside of a group, people have different association with words. And
Mhm.
so the feeling of that particular energy is probably universal, but the words that you were attached to it is different, right? So we want people to like understand the framework, learn the terminology, and then go, I resonate more with this word because it means this to me. And so as you sort of build mastery and understanding over the different level of energy, then you figure out which level you want to pick for yourself as you operate. But the really, really cool thing about this is you start to recognize what level of energy your client is operating at.
Mhm.
So now you go, I can sense that they are in the mug, but like, what kind of mug are we talking about? How deep is the mug? And is there a chance to lift them out of it, right? Because some people need other things. And so as you're recognizing the other, your counterpart's energy level, there are technique, phrases, and wording that you can do to help them lift out. But more than anything else, it's like if you don't hold your energy high, you can
Mm.
come down to you, right? The sense of overwhelm, anxiety, there's way too much. We all been there. Like you walk into your room and it's chaotic, right? So rather than you were light and breezy walking in and you go in, you're like, sky just fell on top of me. What is going on? It's because you
Mhm.
picked up the energy of that room, of the very sort of chaotic, lower level energy, and you went down instead of going up. Or you went down instead of holding yourself high and have other people come up to you.
Yeah, no, and that makes total sense. And I hate using the word empath, but I've always felt other people's energies, always. And up until just the past few years doing what I do now and then getting certified as a coach and some of the stuff I've done recently. Before that, I didn't understand exactly what you just said. I didn't understand that that it was their energy and not mine.
Yeah.
And so learning how to have that, like, block of, like, "Wait, this isn't my energy I'm picking up on," and essentially, I don't receive that energy because
Mhm.
until you're aware of it and until you start picking up on it, can very easily feel like, "Oh, well, that was mine," and like you said, the sky just fell and something bad may be getting ready to like, you can spiral really
Right.
quickly just because you
Absolutely.
felt someone else's energy if you're not aware that it's someone else's and not yours. And especially with what we do, because and especially that first session, like a lot of my clients, they work themselves up into this frenzy before our very first session because they
Mhm.
don't know what it's going to look like. And it is intimidating to have a stranger come into your home. And even though we've done the consultation, they still can just get very like, is she going to force me to get rid of stuff? And is she going to be judgmental? Like they have all those thoughts. And so, now I've gotten myself to a place where when I go to do that first session, I'm already prepared. Like I've got my spiritual armor on. Like I know that walking in, they're going to be a frenzied hot mess sometimes, but that's okay because once I work with them that day, by the time I leave, they are going to feel better. And then they're going to be excited about our times that we work together. And so
Yeah.
it's having that perspective, I think, is huge with this.
Absolutely. It's perspective and the clarity, right? Like first I
Mhm.
love what you said, like before you didn't know and you thought it was yours. Once you got introduced, you became aware of that, like this possibility, oh, it's not mine, then you had to sort of test to see if it really is not. You had to work at it, right? You
Yes.
put in the work, you put in the spiritual work in order to be solid and have that shield up, right? And a lot of
Mhm.
times people call it boundaries, right? It's kind of boundary setting. It's what's mine and what's yours. Let's be really clear. And
Mhm.
having that clarity and holding the energy of that clarity, right? To me, is super, super important. It protects you for sure, right? In kind of in what you say. And, I was thinking about this, which is in a lot of ways, your clients are really brave, right?
Mhm.
To be willing to actually, even though they're like working themselves out, they're so anxious, especially that first time around having someone come in. But you as kind of the declutter expert,
Mhm.
right? To come in and you have to, when you hold that higher level energy, you're holding space of acceptance, of congratulation, of celebration already from the
Yes.
get-go, because you call me and I am here and working
Mhm.
on something, right? And so, and while you're holding that higher level energy of collaboration, of compassion, space holding, you help that person come along,
Mhm.
celebrate their progress, right? And the other, I'm sure at the end of your sessions, there's always a looking back of look at how much you've done,
Oh, yeah.
right? And so
Yeah.
that's a release, and those definitely are vibrating at a higher level energy of I can, here's an opportunity, I can do more. The sky is the limit. What I thought was impossible is actually possible. So that moving from a lower level of like, there's nothing I can do, I'm such a victim, I don't know what I need to do, to something that like, hey, I mean, I could keep doing this and someone is willing to come alongside of me to help me and guide me. But if you as a coach can't hold that energy consistently because things has been holding them back for so long, they could suck right back into it. We see that, right? Like you can
Yeah.
backslide. So the long play for mastering your energy is sustaining that energy is that sustainment that you have for yourself is
Mhm.
passed on to your client.
Oh, absolutely. 1,000%. And even having those conversations, which I think, what you were saying a minute ago about words and like word association,
Hmm.
I guess I've never really given it much thought, to be honest. I know the things I say, I help like the members in the group coaching community. I try to help them in the courses I've created. I've tried to create templates of like the things I say that I know work to help my clients and why they
Hmm.
work and how they work. But I guess I never truly thought about the fact that like the way the words I'm speaking, I know they can speak life or death, like are in the tongue. I totally get that. But as we're talking through the stuff that we're talking through, it really does like I don't know, I love the idea of like the teaching them, the overtime, but setting them up and letting them know, hey, this is not going to happen overnight. It is going to take a little bit of time, but
Work.
right, it takes work. Exactly. It's not
Mhm.
and it's not an Instagram 30-second reel and we're going to have your whole house done. It's going to stay that way
Wouldn't that
forever,
be
right?
wonderful, right?
Right, that is
Yeah.
not that.
Yeah.
But when you let them know, and I talk about it all the time, like setting the expectations with our clients, and I think kinda to what you're saying, it's setting that energy and, letting them know, it's giving them that, like, "Hey, you can do this. This is possible. It is okay if you backslide a little bit. That's normal. We'll pick back up. We'll keep on moving." Like,
Right.
all of those words are speaking life, but also helping them to understand that they're not a failure and that if they do have a bad week, it is okay and it's normal, and I don't know, like, I think I don't know, I love it so much, like how many different levels we can actually help people with when we're helping them declutter and organize. Like you said, it expands. Like it expands into, I mean, so much and so much opportunity.
Absolutely. And, when you're thinking about the choice of words, what you typically use, because that's our background, that's
Hmm.
the vocabulary that we use. The other benefit of kind of the energy practice that I do is that it helps me hold a level of curiosity.
Hmm.
And so I have a practice of like asking myself the exact opposite, right? So trying to think of an example. Like, so, I think about, hey, what if the idea of me coming in to help someone look at their career path, right? For example, like, oh, I've been doing this all this time. What if they are actually exactly on the career path and they don't need my help? What if that is true? Right.
Yeah.
And, and allow for what I think is the impossible to be possible. Kind of that nudges you a little bit to say, maybe there's something else, right? It's not
Yeah.
always a single track. And the other thing that I think is so special about asking your counterpart to sort of associate and give you feedback about, I just said this, like, what do you like it? Do you like not like it? You're inviting them. You're opening the invitation, invite them into, let's really make you own it,
Yeah.
right? I'll give you an example. So one of the level of energy that we talk about, it's level 2 is 1 to 7. It's nothing magical about, the words. The level 2 is a lower level energy, is what we typically call catabolic. And there are certain words that are associated with it. We usually use the word anger. Okay.
Mm.
And so the thing there is, angry means different things for different people, especially depending on your background. Some people have trauma associated with that word. And
Yep.
so that is a framework that I use. If I learn to say, so I use this word anger, but it could also be seen as this and this and this, because over time, my clients giving me feedback that says, I don't know if I really associate with the word anger. I mean, I know
Mhm.
what energy, that feeling you're talking about. I feel more frustrated when I'm at this level, right? I feel sort of more anxious, like I can't sit still, like this is. So there are lots of different things that you invite people to really define what it is that they're feeling and go, okay, do we want this? Do we want to keep this, right? And sometimes that level 2 energy, when I call anger, actually is pretty, it's got energy behind it. You could
Mhm.
use it to do stuff, right? And
Mhm.
so when I was younger, I used to do anger cleaning, like it kept my
Yeah.
house clean. So there's stuff like this is like, which is, we sometimes we're given a framework and it looks great on paper. And we have this word, but like, so what does that look like for me? And when you have someone, a community or a guide to come in to actually work on that even more, like what does it actually look like for me in order
Mhm.
to use this effectively? That's how things get moving. That's how you actually integrate that work. I mean, if you think about Amazon selling billions of dollars in, self-help book, including clutter, right?
Yeah.
Other books, like you would think that people we like you would think that public storage buildings will be
That
out
we're
of
all
business.
organized.
We're
Yeah.
all organized, right? And that's not it, because inside of a framework is something that maybe I think that the biggest thing of those frameworks allow you to become potentially aware
Mhm.
of methods and possibilities, but you need very often, I would say this is like you need someone to come and guide and sort of give you a little bit of a nudge to
Agree.
move things into action, to get you a little more clarity on something that you read and you internalize it to be something different. Like, because
Yeah.
this word means this to me, it doesn't motivate me to do anything. Still a great
Right.
book. I'm glad I
Yeah.
spent $20 on it, right? So, I mean, that's the goal. Like in
Yeah.
terms of working on the work that I do is to help forward movement, to inject curiosity. And the work that I do for myself, much like you, which is, we do things from a
Mhm.
self-care, spiritual practice perspective
Mhm.
so that I can show up for my clients, so that you show up for your clients and this community. Because
Yeah.
without it,
Yeah.
right,
I'm
we
a hot
can't hold it
mess.
up.
Can't
Yeah,
help
it's not
nobody.
happening. Exactly, exactly.
And speaking of, if any of you guys have been thinking about coming and joining our group coaching community, you should do that soon because Miss Annie is coming in and doing our workshop next month. And she's going to dive deeper into these energies, which I'm so excited about. And that's what I love about having the podcast and having someone come on the podcast, but then having the group coaching community and doing the workshop with that same person because they get an idea of what's going on with the podcast. But then, exactly what you said, once you can actually speak to someone one on one or in a group, smaller group setting versus just this conversation we're having, you can't go too specific because we don't know what the listener's going through at the moment. But the
Right,
second you're inside of the community, and, someone can actually be like, hey, well, here's, like you said, I associate stress with anger or whatever it ends up being. You can go so much deeper. And I love that you use the word guide. Like, I think that is huge. And having a guide compared to saying I have a coach, because as much as the name of the podcast is Pro Organizers Coach, hello, Fuzzy,
right,
but I think it's very overused now and it's very saturated and no one really understands what the word coach. I mean, people understand what it means, but it means something different to everyone, right? Like,
yeah,
and so
yeah,
I love the idea of the word guide because that is what, in my book, a coach should be, is someone that guides you and like you said, comes with curiosity and asks you questions because all of the answers are inside of our clients. Like, we don't have the answers as a coach. I'm not the one saying, oh, you should do this and this and this, and then your life's going to be whatever. Now, sometimes with business coaching, you can give answers like that. But it's this, when it comes to the other stuff, as a coach, you have to come with a curiosity The same way as organizers, we go to our clients' homes. And if you come with that curiosity of asking them questions and allowing them, like you said, to collaborate with one another on what the home is going to look like and what's going to be released and what's going to be kept. And all of a sudden it becomes this beautiful, magical thing that everyone grows and everyone learns from the experience.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's a coach is overused. The word co-creation is almost overused as well, but that's really what what
It
is
is.
what it is, right? And I'm sure you have experienced this, right? Like it is when you have the emotional intelligence to read and the energy to read what's going on with your client. There are times when they so need a guide, and that's what you need to be.
Mhm.
The beauty, the best guides know how to guide.
Mhm.
They could tell you what to do from their experience, but you will have to do them, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes there are other declutter coaches or guides that are doing the work for their client, right? And so
Yeah.
it really depends on where they are, what they need in order. And for me, it's always about forward movement. I hate being stuck. And
Yeah.
so, like, part of it is I don't necessarily need you to do all of it. I just need to relieve a little bit of that tension so
Mhm.
that movement could happen. And so, when you are a proper guide, right, you're reading the room, you're reading the person, and you're deciding what do I need to turn on, what do I need to turn down, do I need
Mhm.
to hold the container, have the compassion, give the kudos, or maybe it's a little accountability, right?
Mhm.
So so sometimes you got to bring out, the structure. And so that's what we need to be. And the ability and the ability to sort of hold the energy on all those levels and be able to
Mhm.
go click, flip it at any point in time. That flexibility is gold.
Yeah. No, I agree. What's a typical, and this is just me being curious because now I totally want to work with you. So my curiosity is, how long does it, or do you have a typical like, framework, like 8-week coaching, or do you do it like one session at a time? Or how do you typically, when you work with someone, what does the time frame look like?
So part of it is we have at the beginning we talk about, do you have something very particular that you want to work on, right?
Mm,
What is it that you're really looking for? I have had, I've tried different kind of packagings, and I prefer to work with people long term because what happens is I watch them through the seasons.
mhm.
So from an energetic perspective, the 4 seasons in a year, and if you pay attention to yourself, you'll see yourself being different at every season. And so I very much want to be the guy to actually walk you through the 4 seasons. Then you decide if you want to keep going, right?
Right.
But for most people, they're good at like a commitment of like a 3 months
Mhm.
commitment that seems to be the most comfortable. Most
Yeah.
of the time, they just keep resigning,
Ah, yeah.
And
Well,
so,
and
yeah, yeah,
I
that's
totally
what
get it. It's similar to what a lot of us do as organizers. Some of us, like I do one session at a time. Some people do packages of like 10 hours and then you buy again another 10 hours. So
Mhm.
it's very similar with the coaching as it is with the organizing. And
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, you guys always, I'm sure, because I've worked with Kristen
yes.
a little bit on that's how that's how we got introduced. And it's interesting because as she was coming in to help me, I was recognizing the coaching, like the method that she was using. I'm like, of course, like I'm too close to my own organizational mess, so I can't see it. That's
Yep.
why I need outside help. And one of the things is that once she sort of got things going, things could sustain, right? In some
Right.
shape or form. And then at some point, I'm like, I think I need another extra shot of, clarity and organization and ideas because there's stuff that I just don't know. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'll give you an example of that. This is really funny because we were looking at my kitchen and I have, this typical Tupperware, right? All the
Right.
bins in the bins and the lids in the lids. And then she says something to him like, what? You don't, she's like, don't just match your lids with your container, close them up and, store it in that way. I'm like, well, I feel like that's less space. It's like, give it a try. So for me, this is let's do the opposite, right? Like, I don't think that will work. But I'm like, well, maybe it will work. Well,
Right. What
like the
if?
experts tell me,
Yeah.
right? So let me just try.
Yeah.
So I did it, and like it fit most things. Till this day, that is still the method that I use, and it actually allowed me to see what I use the most
Mhm.
and allow me to get rid of stuff, right? But in a gazillion years, maybe if I troll the web like YouTube channel and Instagram a lot, I would see something like that. But I would have never gotten that guidance had I not have someone in my space, had I not been willing to say, like, I really need some help. And
Yeah.
for someone to come in and not hold that judgment and say, give this a try and see what happens, right?
Yeah, we can always put it back if it doesn't work, but what if? What if it works? Let's just
What if?
try it. Yeah,
Right.
I have
Yeah.
actually had that exact same scenario. Like, I remember the client, like, she's in my mind right now. I said those exact same words to her because the problem with Tupperware in particular is if you don't have it matched, you have it, it feels very chaotic. You're not sure. And like you said, the second it's all matched up, you can see what you're using, what could actually go, but it also feels more uniformed, even though it's less
Yeah.
space,
Yeah.
And so it feels better when you open up that, door instead of all
Absolutely.
the lids being over here and all.
Well, totally. That was what I was gonna say. So now when I opened that particular cabin door, it's like, it doesn't that energy of chaos, right? That
Yes.
lower level energy. So that thing just sits with you and it's
Yes.
not helpful, right? So why would I purposely have chaotic energy in my life? It's like an energy vampire of sorts, right?
Yeah.
Even though I
Yeah.
don't think much of it. So once I free that up, I could go do something else. Would I put
Yeah.
it into my business, my family, however that you choose, right? And so
Right.
it was such an interesting that it just stood out to me because like it was just something she said. I thought she was crazy.
Yeah.
But I did it anyway. I'm go, oh, it actually makes sense. And then in a couple of days, in a week or so, I'm like, there's a whole bunch of stuff that was just gone because like I guess I never use it.
Right, right.
You
I
know,
mean,
it's
I love that,
amazing.
and it's those small little things in our life that, it's like clutter blindness, for example. A lot of
Hmm.
people have clutter blindness, and it's because we live with it for so long, we're not paying attention, but it is making us feel at a lower energy, whether
Hmm.
we realize it or not.
Exactly.
And so with a lot of my clients, I've started taking photos. So I'll take the before photo, but at the end of the session, I will show them, even though it's not fully done a lot of times, I'll still show them, hey, look at how far we came today.
Yeah.
They'll, I don't know how often I hear, is that what it looked like when we started today? Like they just don't even see it. And
Yeah.
then, and so point is energy is inside of everything we do as women, as
Absolutely.
business owners in life, but specifically as organizers. And so I'm so excited to have you come into the group coaching community. Will you tell everyone real quick, like your Instagram handle or where they can find you?
Come to my website. I do more posting on LinkedIn because of the
Okay.
coaching profession. But if you search my name, you'll see it. My website, it's called createtransformationcoaching.com. If you go on there, you'll get a freebie for that's called a forced choice prioritization method. Something that you guys do already is just not talked about in a particular way. And drop me a line and let me know if you have any questions just from the podcast itself, right? And
Yeah, absolutely. And
definitely as you walk into the workshop, the more
yes.
things that people engage up front, the more I can customize what I want to talk about to that audience. And I love doing love
Yeah,
that.
no, I'm so excited for the workshop. I cannot wait. And I'll definitely put the link in the show notes for your website. And thank you so much for coming on the show. And for those of you listening, come join us in the group coaching community, and we will catch you in the next episode.